and welcome to my channel. So I've made a decision, and the decision is I still want to acknowledge that a lot of my audience came to my YouTube channel from when I used to do story times, and I don't want to be one of those people that completely abandons their audience, the majority of why people watch their channel. So I've decided that if I have a story to tell and it's something that happened more than like 2 years ago, I don't have a problem telling it. You know, it was what it was, happened in the past, it is what it is. Also, if it's not something that's too embarrassing on my behalf, I'll save those for Patreon. I won't be sharing as frequently as I used to share, but I think like one a month is cool, you know, if I've got it. When I did my video about vabbing a few weeks ago, there was a comment where someone was like, talk about the Brazilian wax story. And I forgot that I told you guys a little while ago that I've only gotten one Brazilian wax in my life. And I've only gotten one because the one I got was so traumatizing and the aftermath was so embarrassing that I never went back again. I never gave anybody my money to do that to my body ever again. When I'm on social media and I see conversations about young women who are like, I gotta go in for my wax, and going in for their wax is as normal to them as getting a manicure or a pedicure, I'm just like, that is not what was meant for my life. And it's not what was meant for my life, and I know it because of what happened in this situation. And I'm not afraid to tell you guys about it because honestly, it happened so long ago. It's been so long that it's like, it's still embarrassing. Like, it's still hard to get some of it out. It's still hard to tell you about some of it, but I'm not like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not connected to it anymore, but I kind of am, but I'm not. Anyway, here's what happened. So to really understand this story, I got to go back a little bit to my high school years. I've told you all before that I was raised in a conservative Christian household with the idea that I was supposed to save my body for my husband, who I want to say was an invisible man who never showed up, but that's another conversation. And also, I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood. Those two things added together very much mean that no one was trying to see my body unrobed in any kind of disrobedness, okay? That's a new word, I'm coining it. No one wanted to see me in the nude, which means that I didn't have to worry about things that a lot of girls my age had to worry about. I never had to worry about birth control. I was lucky I didn't have super bad acne until I got to college. And I didn't have any issues with my reproductive system that birth control would have helped. So I never had to worry about birth control. I didn't have to worry about, you know, having hard conversations with my parents about, you know, hey, this is what's been going on. And, you know, having to have certain talks and certain truths that I arrived at because I simply was not, I didn't have access to any of those things. And most importantly, I did not have to worry about removing my hair anywhere. If I removed hair, it was my armpits and my legs because I was a cheerleader. So, you know, you're always lifting your arms in the air, lifting your legs. You didn't want to run around with like hairy legs and hairy armpits. But any other area, no. In fact, I believe that my hair down there was like my crown and glory. Because to me, that was undeniable evidence that I was a woman. And that was important to me when I was younger because I've always looked several years younger than my age. And while some people might say like, oh, that's great, that's really cool. When you're a little kid and you want to embrace the world and you want to grow up and you want people to be like, oh, what a lovely young woman. And people walk up to you and they're like, so what are you, 12, 13? And you're 19 years old? It doesn't feel great at all. I remember, you know, doing things like going to an amusement park with friends, and that used to be where we would go to meet guys, well, where they would go. And we were walking around, and I was actually older than one of the girls in the group, and this guy comes up to talk to them, and he's like, so what are y'all, 17, 16? And they were like, we're 13. And he looked at me and he was like, and what are you, 9? Ouch. I remember another time where I went to get, we went to go see the movie Clueless. And me and my friend were both 12. And we went to go see the movie. And the movie's PG-13, okay? My friend comes in. She's been developing. She's a little taller. And she comes in to buy her ticket. And the guy's like, okay, you can go in. He stops me at the ticket booth. And he's like, you can't come in. You are 10 years old. You need an adult to buy your ticket. First of all, who is policing the freaking box office like that? But he was dead set. He was like, you cannot come in here. You need somebody to come get your ticket. I was so embarrassed. I had to call my mother and she had to come up and buy my ticket so I could go see the movie. It was so embarrassing. And throughout my life, I've had things like that where people, it wasn't until I got to be like over 30 that looking younger was actually like a plus. Before then, it was just like, an excuse that people had to treat me like a child. And I didn't like that. And so, yeah, when I was younger, the hair down there was I was like, I know I'm a woman. Can't nobody stop me, because I didn't really like grow taller. I didn't really like develop in any other areas, So that was kind of my proof. That, and like, I was on my period, I knew, hey, I'm of age, but nothing else that girls my age really had to think about or talk about was on my mind. I had a friend though. I had a friend at the time, and she was definitely in these streets. Totally different experience growing up in the neighborhood I grew up in. She was a Vietnamese girl, and the young white men, they really loved that. And yeah, she just had a totally different experience. And so one day we're getting ready to do something. I think we were both cheerleaders. I think we were getting ready to like go to practice or whatever. And I was like, hey girl, I think I went to pick her up at her house. I was like, hey girl, come on, let's go. And she was like, okay, I'll be out in just a second. I actually have to do some hair removal first. And I was like, I'm gonna shave now? Okay, well, whatever, I guess I'll wait. She was like, no, not quite. And she showed me this bottle of Sally Hansen hair removal. And she was like, I actually have to remove all my hair down there. And I was like, why? Why are we doing that? It just seemed extra. It seemed like there was really no reason for it. It just seemed ridiculous. Seemed a ridiculous thing to do. And she said 3 words that changed my life. Guys like it. And in that moment, I experienced like a paradigm shift. I went from, just sort of existing in my body and just having this like naive attitude and idea about what my body looked like and who would be interested in it and, what I needed to do to be interesting. And I was aware that I was like failing in a lot of those areas, but I was like, whatever, I'm just me, blah, blah, blah. And now there was this whole new thing to worry about. You mean that there are men, the boys out there would also reject me because of what's going on down here? So I was like, back up. What you mean guys like it? And she was like, yeah, they don't really like a lot of hair down there. Now, we're not going to go into the implications of what that means right now. We're not going to do that. Just suffice it to say, she told me that. And from that point on, I was like, then I can't have any hair down there, because I never wanted to be left out. I've mentioned that before. When I was a kid, being left out of trends and ideas and things, I didn't like it. I wanted to be a part of the show. And so she tells me this, and she's like, I just got to go in here. It's really quickly. I just put it on, sit in the tub for like 10 minutes. I'm good. So it was that easy for her. And so afterwards I was like, well, can I borrow that? I've got to remove mine as well. I want guys to like me. And she was like, yeah, sure, you can borrow it. So again, I mentioned she's Vietnamese, and I'm not quite sure about the whole hair texture thing, but I will say that Sally Hansen basically laughed at my little area. Nothing happened. I sat in the tub for like 30 minutes that night. Nothing happened. And I was like, oh no. Again, nobody wanted to, I was really fine, but I was obsessed with the idea of removing the hair. So because the Sally Hansen didn't work, I started looking around my house for other things that might work. And I found something called Stop in the house. Now, in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I think even before that, Stop was marketed as like this hair removal cream. And you could put it anywhere on your body and it would get rid of tough to remove hair. It has since been recalled because it's not that great, but I definitely tried to use it on my area down there. And within seconds, I was bleeding, I was crying, it was a traumatizing experience. So after the Stop debacle, I said, you know what? Come to think of it, nobody is trying to see me in any stage of disrobedness at this time. And I'm just gonna let it do what it do. And I did. And I spent the next, 10 years of my life trimming it, trimming it, maybe just for like the purposes of wearing a bathing suit. When you try and do cartwheels on the beach and your friends are like, are you hiding someone in there? What's going on? You want to go ahead and give it a trim. But I never went through any lengths to remove it again. And honestly, there would be years before I lost my virginity. I never, like I said, ran into this invisible husband everyone was talking about in Bible study all those years. So I was fine. And when I did get into some situationships that were toxic but committed in my 20s, those men did not care. They were not body hair police. They were like, whatever. If we like one thing about you, it's your body. And so I was like, okay. And from those situations, I developed kind of a false sense of security. And I say false sense because I believed all men were like that. I was like, all of them will just be happy to be there. They won't have any requests. They'll just be excited to be with me. Because these toxic, ridiculous people who did enjoy my body, that was like the one thing that they liked, they didn't mind what I had going on down there with with the hair. And I was good. I thought I was good. When my last committed situationship ended, and I say committed situationship because this was a person who did not want to commit, did not want to be in a relationship. He was in his 40s. I was in my late 20s, but he wasn't going nowhere. Let's just say I thought that my 30s would be better. And he was actually the best I've seen in like 8 years as far as it comes to me and like people that want to commit. So, but anyway, so when that ended, when I was about 30 years old, I entered the world of dating. I entered the world of, uncertainty when it came to different types of partners. I went from feeling like the people that ended up with me were like tailor made to whoever I was at the time to feeling like I had no idea what people were looking for. I was really lost. I was 30 years old. I had never really dated. I had never been out there in the clubs and things like that. I had never really been meeting people organically. All the people that I would meet in my 20s were like really people from work. And, it wasn't a situation where I just knew a lot about myself. I knew a lot about what was possible. And I was really kind of lost. I went to go work at a school and I ran into another person who knew what was up, who was having a different experience. And really quickly, I want to say that I knew before I met this person, I knew about the details of waxing and things and that. And I talked to people about it because I was part of the generation that was raised by Sex in the City. And Carrie gets a Brazilian when she goes out to LA and she's like, oh, wow, it's she describes it in certain ways. I remember Ava Longoria gave an interview about Brazilian waxes and she was like, oh, it's this, whole experience. So I knew people were out there doing it. I knew that it was happening. I just didn't ever think that it was necessary because like I said, the men that I had been with had never cared. So I meet this girl and she is living a different life than me. She's definitely dating. She's out there. She's, whatever. And not only in that way, she was really like a guru for me for a lot of my 30-year-old womanhood. I'll have to send her this video and like tag it at this point as a thank you. But literally you would not be looking at a person who even knew how to apply makeup without this young woman. When I started working with her, I pretty much only knew how to do like a powder and like a lip gloss and like mascara. I didn't know anything about brushes. I didn't know anything about foundation. I didn't know anything about anything. She was the oldest daughter of a Nigerian family. They were all sisters. Everybody was beautiful. She like made me my first wig. They all made their own wigs. They all dyed everything. They all were makeup wizards. They just, in a lot of ways, I didn't have a big sister. And so in a lot of ways I was like, teach me. What do you know? And so if she said that this was something that people were doing or needed to do, I was like, And so one day we're talking, we're at a happy hour and she's like, okay, girl, I gotta go. I gotta go get my wax. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go with you. So I went with her and she told me she gets a full Brazilian. And I was like, I've never even gotten that done before. So I'm gonna get just a bikini. Okay. That's what I'm gonna get. She was like, sure. Start small. So I got the bikini wax. I liked it. It was not that painful. And I was like, okay. Keep in mind though, around this time in life, I still didn't really have a reason to be doing this. When I ended that situationship when I turned 30, nobody else really came around. And so I had been maybe about 15 months celibate at this time. Nothing was really going on. But when I met this person, I was like, now's the time. It's time to get out there in any way I can. And so I got this little bikini wax and I was like, all right, I feel like I should start putting myself out there. So I got on Tinder, and this is back in like 2015. Got on Tinder for the very first time ever. And I started trying to use Tinder. And, it was an experience. And I ended up matching with this guy. And we went back and forth for a little bit. And we would get in like these weird little fights. We never should have ended up meeting up. But I think both of us were horny. And we eventually were like, look, we're going to meet up. We're going to hang out. We're going to use Tinder for what Tinder is for. I reject that now. I think that's ridiculous. You have people that get married off of Tinder. It's so annoying to log on to Tinder and to see men, they'll write profiles and they'll be like, stop pretending this ain't Tinder. You know what we here for? And it's like, people get married. You can do whatever you want on this app. I hate the fact that it got coded as the hookup app because I really do think an app where either men or women can choose to make the first move. Like, I think it's a good idea. It just has a horrible reputation that is really, and then of course all the swindlers, on Tinder. So it doesn't have the greatest of reputations, but it was something that I used to try and get out there. And I met this guy and we were going to use it, as a hookup app. And I was like, meet me here at, this day, whatever, we're going to do this thing. And so cut to, around the time that we were going to meet up. And I'm at another happy hour with my friend, my guru friend. And she's like, oh, girl, I got to go. Got to get my wax. Like, it was like a Friday thing for her. And so I said, you know what? I'm coming with you. And I'm going to do the full Brazilian this time. And she was like, oh, okay. I said, between you and me, I've got a little rendezvous scheduled for tonight, which you're never supposed to do. You're supposed to give it like 24 to 48 hours to see how your skin settles. But I didn't know that. I know that now. I was like, I've got a little rendezvous for tonight and I want to give him a surprise. And she was like, okay. So I went in with her. I went into the waxing room. I went in with a full forest down there. I didn't trim. I didn't shave it down. So I went in and the lady was like, and she proceeded to start the waxing. And the things she was saying to me while I was being waxed, so that they're honestly still so embarrassing to me that I'm going to place them here on the screen and let you read them yourselves in this short interlude. It was a traumatizing experience for me and this young woman. We both were like, we never want to see each other again. And honestly, I never did see her again because I never went back. I reached down though to like feel the area after it had been done. And I was like, Carrie Bradshaw lied to me. Ava Longoria lied to me. My guru has lied to me. This is not cute. And what was happening is my body was having a reaction to, there's probably ingrown hairs that were coming out. I mean, it was not a successful situation. And it definitely wasn't sexy. And immediately I was like, I need to cancel with old dude. But we'd been going back and forth for weeks and I'd already invested all this time. And I was like, well, the other men never cared. They never cared. So maybe he just won't care. Yeah, he's a guy. He just won't care. So I proceeded to go forward with it. I proceeded to meet up with him. We proceeded to try and get something started. And I noticed he's having trouble getting with the program. And finally, we both kind of like stopped. And he had been feeling around in places. And eventually he stops feeling around in places. And we both just stop. All action just stops. And he looks at me and I'm like, what's wrong? What's the problem? And he goes, promise you won't get mad. And now anytime somebody says that, I'm going to get mad. I don't know why I say, yes, tell me. No, I'm getting mad. I'm going to get upset, but whatever. So he says, promise you won't get mad. And I said, I promise, it's fine. And he goes, your doesn't turn me on. I had no clothes on. I was completely in a state of disrobedness. I shot straight up, got out of the bed area. He shot up, no clothes on. He grabs his stuff from a chair. He walks out of my house completely naked. I walk him to the front door. No, I mean, we part ways. I go to my phone and I send him a text and I say, if you want to save your self-esteem, you need to block me because I'm about to light you up. Because the thing is that when he walked in the room, and this happens a lot with online dating, he absolutely did not look anything like his picture. Well, he did, but he was mostly head. That's why I don't like whenever somebody on a dating app, they just post like head from head up. I don't like that because I'm like, you could be one of those people where your head size is the majority of your body. And that was this man. He had like at least 2 to 4 feet of just head. He was one of those people, he was like, I'm always in the gym. But he had the arms of a neglected scarecrow. He had hands that would have been beautiful hands if he was an 8th grade girl who played piano. He was it was like he had been pieced together by a confused Frankenstein. So for him to say that to me, I lit him up. I probably I've sent some nasty messages, but that one I went for the gut. And then after I sent him that, I went upstairs in my room and I just cried. here I was in this new decade of my life. I was trying to be a hot girl. I was trying to be in the city streets. I was trying to use the dating apps. I was trying. And I couldn't even get a wax right. I still couldn't get right this whole idea of what guys like. And now, what guys would I even be meeting? And what, and the guru didn't prepare me for this. She never said anything like this would happen. So when I went back to work on Monday, I was depressed the whole weekend. I mean, that man really just destroyed my low self-esteem. And I went back to work on Monday and I told her what happened. And she was like, I am so sorry. That has never happened to me. I don't know what to say. And I think that's what the hardest thing was. Like, I didn't know anybody that anything like this had happened to. I didn't know anybody I could talk to about it. Of course, I never talked to the guy again. And so I was just sad. I was just like, and that's one of the things that I miss about working with kids, because a lot of times for me, I would come to work depressed about something in my personal life. And within maybe 20, 30 minutes of hanging around my students, I would just be really lit up and feel really warm, because teaching was always a place of love for me. And so that particular day, I remember standing up because I was asking them. I remember my hands were like crossed over my chest. I mean, just holding everything in. And they were doing presentations. And this one kid, he was just like, Miss Comfort, can I sit next to you while they do the presentations? And I was like, sure. And he was just talking to me and like saying the goofiest things and making me laugh. And I noticed that my shoulders started to drop a little bit. Like I started to feel better about myself. Like, even if I didn't have any value to this random man from the internet, I still had value to this kid and to this classroom of children who were so excited to present this project that I had given them. So I started to feel better. And I even found a coworker that day who I'd built like kind of a bond with. When I was teaching, that was a time where I would have male friends. It would be my married coworkers. And no, nothing like that would happen. But when I was teaching, I always had like a trusty dusty guy teacher that I could go talk to. And so I went and I found him. And I was like, hey, we talk about our personal lives sometimes. And I have something to ask you. And this guy was interesting because in retrospect, I'm like, why you tell that man that? But, I don't have brothers. I don't have anybody I can go, I can't go to my dad with something, So, and I didn't really know how to proceed like as a woman. And I needed to hear a man's point of view. I needed to hear something. So we went into his room and we closed the door and we sat down and I was like, this happened to me this weekend. And I told him what happened and he was like, that sucks. And, that guy. But he 100% thought you had a disease. I'm just saying, if it was as bad as you're saying it was, and I was like, it was bad. It does not feel good today. I'm in pain as it like grows back in. It's horrible. He was like, yeah, you just shouldn't. He had no way of trusting you, no way of knowing for sure, that what you were telling him was just a bad wax. He had no way of knowing if that was true or not. So I'm not surprised he acted that way. It sucks for you. But let me just also be clear. He definitely just probably didn't know. And you're somebody that he doesn't know very well. And so, yeah, that just sucks. And this guy was interesting because my coworker was interesting because he was only like 25, but he had 4 kids. And he had been with the mother of his children since they were both like in high school. He bought a house when he was like 18 from working construction jobs over the summer. And he was a very devoted husband and father at like 25 years old. And I remember he told me, he goes, just from my perspective as a married man who's a father of 4, who has seen his wife in all different, she's been pregnant, she can't get down there. When a guy really cares about you, he doesn't care about that. That's just not. So don't worry about doing that to yourself anymore to please guys. Like, it's just not that serious. And he was just, he like gave me a hug and was like, I'm sorry. And so after that, I did feel better. And, I went on living my life, and lo and behold, at another happy hour, I ran into a guy and we were talking and, whatever, one thing led to another and another and another and another. And at this point, the area was really fighting its way back. Like it was tough. And I would not have, if I had planned on me doing anything with this young man, I definitely would have been like, ooh, maybe give me about a week. But it was very sporadic. It was very spontaneous. And when I say he did not care, he did not care. And going forward, that was really the attitude. Most people it just didn't affect them. They were just like, whatever. But one spring in 2018, I had gotten a little too comfortable, and I had been messaging and dealing with this dude, and at the time had come for us to be intimate, and we were. And we were sitting there talking afterwards, and he said to me, "Oh, I'm just a giver. I'm just a very giving person, a very giving partner." And I was like, "Well, I noticed you weren't too giving, you know?" And he was like, "Oh, you mean because I didn't, you know?" And I said, "Well, yeah, that's exactly what I mean." And he was like, "Just because I didn't do it for you doesn't mean I don't do it. All power to you for having all of that going on down there. But if you want to fuck with me, you got to you got to get rid of all of that. You got to do it immediately. I don't like all of that in my face. And so I would not ever go near that area with my face." And I want to just describe this man. He had a huge black beard on his face, huge, like a lumberjack beard. And so when he said that, we had a repeat of 2015. I stood up and I walked him out. Moving forward from that particular incident, I was like, you know what? Just for my sake, I'm going to, while I was active, I was like, I'm gonna always just keep it trimmed. And so I invested in like a lady trimmer and like would just take care of it myself. Never went back to get waxed ever. And then, when the pandemic hit and I was without any kind of anything for like 2 years, we went right, it went right back to, my natural way of being. And I remember when the artist dude came around, I warned him and I said, wait, hold on. It's been a while and I have not groomed and I kid you not, this man said to me, "That's my favorite thing," and straight up grabbed me by the back. Never mind. He let me know that he had no problem with it and proceeded to do whatever he was going to do. Long story short, I have found that most people have no problem with it. And so I have never sought the need to go back to getting the waxing done again. But that moment sticks with me with that guy all those years ago because I was really trying to be a hot girl in the city. And I really got my feelings hurt. And as a result, when I see the girlies talking about getting waxed and things online, can't relate because I did it once and I'll never do it again. So that is my story about the Brazilian wax that bit back. Not too long for you, but it is something that somebody asked about. And I was like, oh, it happened a couple years ago. It was super embarrassing, but I've had better experiences since then. And the most important thing I think I learned from that is that whatever makes me comfortable in my body needs to make whoever I'm with comfortable. And if that's not the case, then we can have nothing to do with each other. All right, there is that lovely story. And as always, thanks for watching.